Hey, and welcome to the Vergecast
Yes.
for the week of July 9th, 2012. I'm Josh Topolsky.
I'm Paul Miller.
I'm Nilay Patel.
And yes, we are back on the Vergecast.
No, man. Some real branding confusion there on the Vergecast.
Oh, well, we are on the Vergecast.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
We're on the Vergecast. Huh?
I just keep on turning up.
Joke has
Nilay.
nowhere to go. Anyhow, we're back. It's been a hectic few days. Why did I just get very quiet? How did that
I
happen?
noticed that too.
And I just want you to know that if all goes according to plan, we will be receiving delicious smoothies here in the studio.
It's true.
Thanks to Michael B. Shane on Twitter. Check him out. He's our editorial assistant.
Should we review the orders that we made?
We should review just before I explain that this is the Vergecast where we discuss the week in technology culture.
Right.
We should talk about our orders.
Right.
Go on.
I got berry no dairy.
Berry no dairy.
Oh God.
For Paul.
I went with a hippie protein.
Hippy dippy protein
hippy
banana.
Hippy dippy.
And I went for berry explosion. Which is basically berry no dairy.
By the way, these are not actual.
They're not real things. They're just the way we described them to Michael when we were desperately trying to give him an order. Anyhow, so hopefully, and we don't know if he'll be successful.
Right.
We have no way of knowing, actually, at this moment.
Right.
So anything's possible.
It's true.
So week in news was not crazy, but we had some sparks.
We did.
Some sparks. And by the way, you can't start a fire without a spark. Also, this gun's for hire, in case you're interested.
Oh God. I didn't eat anything today, and I can't come up with the next lyric.
It's even if we're just dancing in the dark.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah, it is. God.
Oh no, it's I don't know, what is the order? It's this gun's for hire. You can't start a fire without a it's can't start a fire without a spark. This gun's for hire, even if we're just dancing in the dark.
That's exactly right.
I think that's about sex, right? It's about lovemaking.
Thank you, Creighton.
Is that about lovemaking?
Yes.
It may also be about getting out of a one-horse town.
Yeah, I mean
I think it's
ultimately they're all.
both of those.
It's about.
It's both about lovemaking and getting out of one-horse town, possibly at the same time. So anyhow, this is the Vergecast, and we do typically talk about some technology once in a while. Mm-hmm. What do you have on our topics list for the day?
Well, we can open with two things. One, you get your choice. Gambler's choice.
Lady's choice.
Yeah. You interviewed Thorsten Heins.
Thorsten Heins.
Or the Nexus 7 is shipping.
Yeah. Oh, you didn't know about this?
No.
Let's do Thorsten.
Let's talk about Thorsten.
People really liked our BlackBerry piece from the last episode. I interviewed Thorsten Heins, the CEO of RIM, Research in Motion, as they say. He didn't have that much to say about anything specific.
Really? Really?
It was like we have a plan that is going to go into action, and that when that action occurs, there will be a reaction, and we will be successful.
So here's what I think is really interesting about RIM right now. Jean-Louis Gasset, who used to be the senior executive at Apple, and now is like
Jean-Louis Gasset.
Jean-Louis.
Jean-Louis.
He's like, they're setting themselves up for a lawsuit because if they keep making promises to shareholders, and they keep saying things like our company isn't in trouble when it's blatantly obvious to some shareholders that the company is in trouble, then they're violating their actual duty to shareholders to maximize value, run the company.
Well, but isn't part of their duty to shareholders to maximize value so you make your company look good so that the stock stays?
It's a weird cycle.
Paul makes a good point, which is part of the job. You have to walk the fine line of pumping shareholders up
and lying. Just be like a horrible.
You have to walk the fine line of lying and telling the truth.
And somewhere in the middle of those is going crazy on an airplane.
Right. Somewhere in the middle of that is getting so ass-face drunk on an airplane that you have to be restrained with those plastic handcuffs, which you then gnaw through with your mouth. You chew through it and continue to go totally berserk.
That's the sort of
just to remind you,
that's the sort of passion that's going to make the next generation mobile operating systems.
That's going to completely revolutionize how we communicate.
When Thorsten Heins said that they identified the people who really know and love BlackBerry, and they call them BlackBerry people. Those are BlackBerry people, passionate users.
Right.
No, I mean, look.
Well, talk about your interview.
Wait.
What's
I
the
just want to remind, by the way, out there on the internet, if you don't know what we're talking about, there were 2 RIM executives that went completely nuts on a plane. I mean, because this happened a few months ago. You know, the news cycle is
more than a few months ago. I'm really
like 6.
I'm really like dredging up like irrelevant things. And it was before Thorsten Heins, right?
Look,
It was before
I
that
typed the words
was the
rim
straw.
drunk December 13, 2011.
There you go. So anyhow, I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Lazarus was like, maybe we're not doing something. maybe we're doing something wrong here. Anyhow, I interviewed Thorsten Heins, who's the new CEO. When did he be? I think was it 3-4 months ago.
Sounds about right.
I don't know the date exactly, but and you know we spoke to their head of marketing for the U.S. and
January.
I never know where I'm supposed to look here. There's a camera that's on me. Creighton, what do you suggest? You're the director. Do you suggest I look at this camera when I speak, or did I look at Paul?
Look at me.
Yeah,
I'd prefer to look at you.
it's a conversation.
Well, I would prefer you look at me too.
So, but then it looks like weirdly like I'm looking away from the camera, doesn't it?
No.
Okay.
Yeah,
I never thought
more
about it until
natural.
just this moment. So
If you're going to address the audience, you should look at the
that's what
camera,
I'm going to do. You got it. You nailed it. So we spoke to their head of marketing for the U.S. He had a similar like vague. It was like, we're going to win. We've got a great platform. It's going to change the way you use computers. And so Thorsten basically said the same thing. He said that he admitted that they had like basically no success in like touchscreen phones.
Yeah.
Which I thought was interesting. He also, what?
They also, well, go ahead. You finish. The touchscreen phone thing to me is pretty hilarious.
Well, it's funny that like I think they're trying to draw this, and I called it imaginary line in the sand between like QWERTY smartphones and touchscreen smartphones, and I think that like there are people who like QWERTY smartphones, and there are people who like touchscreen smartphones, but they should not. They're not different devices in the sense that like you should be able to accomplish all you can accomplish on a touchscreen phone with a QWERTY and vice versa. And I think that they're kind of like, but look. You know, we offer this QWERTY and it's doing very well.
But the reason their QWERTY phone is doing very well is because nobody else sells a QWERTY phone. I mean, what are you talking?
4G slide touch X2.
Well, so I mean, I love like brand new UI paradigms and revolutionary, changing ways people use computers. But like, if they're going to do another playbook, like, look, here's our brand new crazy new ideas. Sure, we don't have any features yet. But just imagine, like they cannot afford at all to do that.
That's what they're doing.
My sister was like looking for a recommendation for a friend for a phone recently. She's like, should I get a BlackBerry and an iPhone? And I was like, well, what does she need to do with it? And one of them was manage multiple Gmail accounts. I was like, no.
Definitely.
You can't. Like, and so like
you're saying don't get a BlackBerry.
Don't get a BlackBerry. And for there to be something that's a very modern, regular application that a lot of people need to do that you just literally can't do on your phone, that's a bigger problem than like revolutionaryizing.
In my opinion, and again, it's only one man's opinion. The people who have a BlackBerry who are like, I could never live without my BlackBerry, have not learned the skill of typing on a touchscreen. And that is a skill you learn.
And in a few months.
And not even a few months. I mean, it is a skill you learn, and once you learn it, what you discover is, and I've done extensive personal testing on this, when you're faster on the touchscreen.
Right.
I mean, some people may be very fast, but I believe that I'm faster on the touchscreen. I think a lot of people I know are faster on the touchscreen. And like once you learn the skill, and you go back to this like the tension of the physical keyboard, it becomes it feels a lot harder to type. I mean, you don't have. I'm not talking about like if I had all of my fingers available, like iPad screen to keyboard.
Right.
I would much rather, and I'm much faster typing on a keyboard.
Sure.
I can touch type. They're just like all my fingers are in play and they are confident on a regular physical keyboard.
Are you faster on a 10-finger iPad software keyboard than the than iPhone or Android keyboard?
I don't think so. I don't think I am.
I will say that I enjoy it more, just because it's like it feels really hilarious.
You feel like you're like playing music.
I think I'm pretty good.
But it's. I mean, I'm fast, but like I definitely feel more comfortable. And it's not because the skill. It's not because I haven't learned the skill. It's because, like, I believe there are real advantages to the tactility and not having to look at a keyboard while you type.
But you know that mentally. But you were saying even the other day you still feel the draw to a physical keyboard, even though it's irrational.
I feel the irrational draw to a physical keyboard, but yet I know, like, especially when it comes to thumb typing. And I think the people who use a BlackBerry now have used them for a long time. They are very comfortable with them. They believe that they are getting things done better than they could get them done on another platform, and yet like what it really boils down to is like you haven't learned the skill of the newer platform, and like what you're saying is basically untrue. Like I don't believe a BlackBerry is a more efficient device in terms of getting things done than a modern Android phone, than the newest Android phone or the newest iPhone.
But it's not that phenomenon is not like a new thing to the world of smart. I mean, that phenomenon happens every couple decades, every time there's a new technological shift. I mean, it's
you mean people are slow to change.
Yeah, it almost speaks to the maturity of smartphones, where they're more like cars. Like, yeah, I don't trust an automatic transmission.
Right? No. I think that's a great example. But I think what I'm saying is that like RIM in a way is kind of is hinging a lot of their success on
old parts,
on BlackBerry people, who I believe that when BlackBerry people are exposed to the other ways of doing things, they'll start to go like, oh, geez.
Yeah.
Like that's how you do a calendar entry on an iPhone, or that's how you do it on an Android phone.
When the BlackBerry people are infected with the smallpox of the iPhone.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that like you can't hinge if your business is built on retaining customers that have shown clearly that they will leave you because something is better, and it's like I think like relatively empirical at this point that the movement is not towards like it's not like to retaining, it's moving towards the better platform, like I think Android and iOS are the better platforms. If your model's based on like retaining, that's not a model for growth, and you're not going to win. Like you can't win in the smartphone race if your model is to like hold on to the people you have, and if you believe that those people represent the audience. The audience is every single person on the planet, because in 10 years, no one will not have a smartphone.
So when you talked to Thorsten about this stuff,
yes,
what was he like?
Yeah, that's what I want.
What's he like?
He was. I mean, he actually was. What I thought was surprising is he actually was like, "We think BlackBerry 7's really good." I mean, he's clearly trying to watch for the Osborne effect of like. I mean,
why? Like, go for it.
I mean,
Osborne down.
I would agree, but I think that he's basically like, I was surprised that he thinks that he really is still behind BlackBerry 7, and maybe he just has to be for the sake of the company at this point. But he also went pretty deep on this idea that like, he said there were some parts that like I couldn't fit into the whole, I didn't want to write a whole transcript. But he mentioned, like the BlackBerries are for busy people, like not just business people, but mothers and families, and it's like, yeah, so are and it's like so are iPhones and so are Android phones. Like if you don't
think that vibe still persists, like marketing wise,
no, it is their messaging. I mean, he's following their messaging, and he's reinforcing.
Or even like, I think that image of people.
No, when I see a guy on a BlackBerry, I'm like,
that guy's getting something done.
I think he's getting stuff done. Right. But the funny thing is, like, I know because I went and tried to use the newest BlackBerry.
Also, because maybe his company wouldn't allow him to get a phone other than his BlackBerry.
Well, but when I see somebody typing on BlackBerry, I think like I feel like this person's all business. But like when I went and tried to use the newest Bold as my main device, like.
Can't be done.
Taking care of business was not how I felt. Was not what I felt was happening.
Right.
I wasn't taking care of business. I was like waiting for things.
By the way, taking care of business is not what I felt was happening. It's an amazing sentence.
I wasn't. I didn't feel like I was getting stuff done. I felt like I was waiting and frustrated and like how, in what way is it, in what single way is this better than any other modern smartphone?
Right.
And frankly, like what. Instant email, that happens on my smartphone.
Right.
Instant messaging, that happens on my smartphone. I mean, Apple has iMessage, which accomplishes. Are these smoothies? It'd be funny. It'd be funny if Michael was like, "I couldn't get smoothies, but I got you the individual fruits that would make up a smoothie
and a blender,
and a blender." So I think that. Oh man, this looks exactly like in my mind what I was thinking of when I described a berry explosion. Is that a berry explosion?
Yes, but that one has yogurt. Yours don't have yogurt.
No, he said no dairy.
Oh, then give me that one.
Wait, so does that have no dairy?
This has no dairy.
But Josh said no yogurt.
I said no dairy too.
Right, you have no dairy. Nilay gets the one with dairy because there was
But yogurt is dairy, right?
Yeah, I know.
I get the yogurt one. I understand.
Yeah, that's that one.
See?
So they're all berry. They're all berry explosion.
I didn't get hippy dippy protein.
Hippy dippy bonanza,
Okay. So Nilay fails out.
Yeah,
mine looks much creamier and delicious than yours.
It looks great.
It does look great. No one's going to knock you for enjoying that.
So
can we just take a moment and I'll enjoy a smoothie with our audience?
Can we just? I want to
Friday.
I want to wait.
Afternoon.
Oh, let's wait for first sip till we all have our straws in.
Right.
Okay.
Wait.
Let's find out if I get fired or not.
Cheers.
Okay, you're right.
Hey, you gotta You can't get it right from the
Friday
bottom.
Vergecast.
What do you mean right from the bottom?
Well, you're gonna get just like syrup.
Are you sipping? Come on.
Oh, that is delicious. Yeah.
This is like not sweet at all.
It's not sweetened, but you know it's healthy because it's not sweetened.
Yeah,
What
I
is it?
told them not to add
It's
sugar.
berries. It's just berries.
It'll make you fat.
No, but berries are sweet.
It's berry, no dairy.
This is extremely bizarre tasting.
Berries aren't as sweet
yours
as you
sweet?
think.
No, it's tart. This is, I have to say,
I can get some
in
honey.
terms of the Vergecast, one of our stranger moments.
This is great.
You want some sugar, honey, or something?
No, this is not right. If you blend up strawberries
They're tart.
and blueberries,
They're tart.
they are tart,
They're tart.
but they're also sweet.
Well, no, you know what? You typically put like a lot of orange juice or something in
No,
there.
you typically. All right. Okay, it doesn't matter. Let me get back to.
So, here-
speaking of berries, let me get back to this blackberry conversation.
Here, so I wanted to say something.
No. No.
Yes. Yes.
So you know how
Here's
Yes,
good.
we're talking about BlackBerry getting left behind and stuff, and I
Really need to do my mute button here. Go ahead.
I've been really love iPhone. It's so comfortable to me. And I like iOS on the iPad and the iPhone. I think it's great, and it's been so wonderful. I think it was very much ahead of its time, and I feel it just feels right, to me. But I pulled out someone at the office got a Nexus 7, and I managed to get through all the screens without getting it on the internet, and I could do literally nothing because there's no, everything requires the internet, but the operating system felt like kind of a generation more modern than iOS to me.
Oh, absolutely.
It just felt the multitasking and just, I don't know, I felt like it's a modern UI, and it's clean. It seems like it's really designed for the future. And iOS, a lot of people I know were disappointed that the newer version, is it iOS? What's the next one that's coming out? Six. Is just, it still looks exactly the same, still operates exactly the same. And I think, Apple, if Apple doesn't leap forward in a while, I just think they could be very content with how well they've done. And that's not
Classic.
a guarantee of that's a guarantee of a couple more years of success, but it doesn't give you forever success. And I just feel like, I guess it's Jelly Bean on the Nexus 7.
Yeah.
It just felt so good. And
feels well.
I don't even know how to use it because I don't really use Android very much.
One thing you have to say about Google, and they've made some big missteps and mistakes in I don't know how we're talking about Google now, but we'll get back to BlackBerry. But one thing they do, and I think this is like the wave and buzz thing, like I think why we saw them and why they've been so ridiculed. Like one thing that Google does do is make pretty dramatic changes. Like they'll just do something like, hey, we have this new product, Wave, and everybody's going to use it. And like they kind of don't go like, is it going to be a success or a failure? And I think they've started to turn some of their iterative nature towards like they're really focusing it. And I think that Jelly Bean is a real representation of like between ice cream sandwich and Jelly Bean, I see like an extreme focus, and it just feels like they've hit something where they're really starting to.
Well,
Like
you want to just talk about this thing that's shipping? We can
they're
move on
appetite-
from.
Well, let me
BlackBerry.
just say one of the
Anything else he said that really touches on this?
we quoted in the headline that he says, I asked him, I said, did you think Nokia made the right decision? Partnering with Microsoft and abandoning Symbian and abandoning Migo, and he said, well, Nokia doesn't have what we have. We have nearly 80 million users. We have services.
Well,
we
there
have
was
software, which I thought was weird because he says, I can't remember if I put the quote in or not, but he said like we have software and services, and it's like they had software and services too, and they had a lot more users than
OV Maps.
they had a lot more users than but like in terms of like their core user, it wasn't a smartphone user that was using like their email services.
But
and
what
their-
Rim is talking about is in enterprise, everybody has a BlackBerry Messenger server, and that's sitting there, and that's like a huge entry point for us.
Yeah.
But there are lots of stories about Fortune 500 companies thinking about iPhone and Android because they don't know if Rim will make it, and they're
well, he kept
heavily
talking
dependent
about
on these BVM
he kept
servers.
using this. He's like they love using this phrase BYOD.
Yeah.
Bring your own device. He's saying with the new culture of bring your own device, and
Like that's a bad thing.
no, he's saying like we want to embrace that. But to me, it almost sounds like he's hedging towards we're going to license our
They really should.
services
Yeah.
to other manufacturers. I'm not talking about to HTC, though. He did say like we'd be open to like licensing our platform to HTC or somebody like
Of
that.
course
But
they would.
to Android
but-
and iOS.
To Android and iOS.
Well,
and that,
you know,
then
'cause
I
if they
think
don't
that's a
do that-
sustainable business.
If
I
they
actually
don't
think-
do that every month, is just worse and worse for them.
Right, and every month is another month where Apple's going to do it anyhow, but where Apple and Google's going to do it anyhow too, but where they're going to beef up their security, they're going to beef up their enterprise services, they're going to continue to like push into that world. I mean, it's funny, but Microsoft and RIM are in this very similar place where they're like, we're strong in enterprise, and that can support our business.
But you have companies that are still on Windows XP, and that sort of company would really love to just keep that BlackBerry server that's been treating them so well all this time, except for those few times.
I mean, how well has it been treating them? I think that's a question.
Well, but like well enough to maybe stick with it, you know. And so if like, but like all our users want these new phones, and if those new phones can support that, I think that's a big jolt of life. It doesn't, you know, guarantee an entire, you know, decade of
all they have to do
continued popularity.
But all they have to do is change their fundamental business.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry, I've got like bits of berry in my teeth now.
Yeah.
These smoothies have really turned into a double-edged
You know,
sword.
I feel like I need a beverage to wash down the smoothie. Could you grab me a seltzer? Which is really like a lot of stuff in there. I don't know if it's fresh, but
You know, the yogurt makes it creamy.
a lot of
delicious.
stuff.
Just saying.
freshly defrosted.
But you know, they have to change their business of like being a consumer-facing handset maker that also does software and services. I mean, their business, their core business, up until recently, I mean, and maybe still, I haven't looked at all of the numbers, but is their consumer business. I mean, they talk about it too.
Yeah.
You know,
They
they're a
sell
consumer
phones.
company. They've been selling curves like crazy for like 10 years.
Like those two guys that are DJs and produce music.
Yeah, they can't work.
Those
They can't
guys.
use an iPhone.
They need tools, not toys.
They don't need a toy like an iPhone, which is just for
Gosh.
playing around, and an Android phone, which is only like lame dorks use that aren't doing anything.
Right.
I feel like that marketing is really wrongheaded. You know what you should say instead of like we do something basically different than you? You should say we do something better than you.
Yeah.
Like different is a lie. Better could be true.
Well, but this is the lie that they're telling, right?
What
we're
I
going to
would
do
love-
something so different
I'd love
that it'll
just
make
like
up for the fact that we're late.
Right. I guess so.
I'm saying like,
well, yeah, they're telling both lies.
I don't know why I came up with my hands up. Go ahead.
no, I'm saying like if you look at this, or you look at this is the Nexus 7, or you look at what iOS 6 is, you can't come out with a whole new operating system that's caught up to this.
So real. Watch out. You almost.
So you have
knocked
to
over
do
here.
something different.
Do I? Is this for me? Oh. All right. Can we get rid of this trash? That'd be good.
Sorry for making those slushy noises. on that.
No, you can't come out with a whole new operating system the way they're saying they're going to do it and be caught up to Jelly Bean, be caught up to iOS 6. In many ways, even be caught up to Windows Phone 8 because that has had years of development.
Right.
And so I think they have to tell this lie about how they're going to revolutionize fundamental communication.
Parking meters are going to
And it's
talk
like,
to your phone.
Are you sure? Are you sure that's the best way to say it?
a row of parking meters will burst into a chorus of song as soon as you walk
ATMs
past
will
them with your-
dispense money.
ATMs will shoot money at not just out, but it will just magnetize directly towards your phone. It'll
Yeah.
go flying through the air.
We
like
haven't
that.
had time to do a
have you-
mobile
have you-
payment service.
have you
But
By the way, in
ATMs
my
will-
mind, that's what I imagine is like it's a cartoon, and you pull your phone out, and the parking meter starts singing, and the ATM machines float money over to your phone.
Right.
Like maybe I should talk
That's an
about
ad.
an ad. Yeah,
Yeah,
It's like Ellen Enchanted and there's birds. and
that's
stuff.
right. That's exactly right.
Have you guys been in like Dwayne Reed or something, and you're walking down the aisle, and then the aisle starts talking to you about, "Hey, look over here."
No, what?
You've been off the internet too long.
Yeah.
I don't.
Have you
seen
taken
this?
up
I
drug
don't
use
think
because you have
that's-
nothing else
no,
to do?
No.
Those are
So,
not.
like-
That's not the aisle.
So like in the
That's the heroin ball.
deodorant aisle.
oh boy.
There's like mid-level.
we
There's
get
this
a-
little LCD, and it's got a motion sensor. So you walk past it, and you're like 1 or 2 feet
It's like
past
it's like a dancing Santa.
and then yeah. But it yells. There's a pretty loud speaker that says, "Hey, over here!" And you turn, and there's a video playing like
freaking-
about like Gillette or something.
Really
and-
good
and
idea.
It's a little LCD.
And look, it's worked. You've advertised Gillette. Oh,
Yeah.
Do we have a sponsor this week? Oh, thank goodness. Gillette for shaving.
and for
Hey,
freaking you
hey,
out.
look
And
over
the
here.
Dwayne-
Gillette. Hey, look over here. Okay, so let's talk about. You want to talk about the Nexus?
Yeah.
Anyhow, but that was it. So that was all Thorsten had to say. He was a very nice, by the way, very nice man. I'd love to have it more. We had a very short conversation, like a 20-minute conversation. I'd love to have a longer.
Do you think he's the right thing for RIM?
No, unfortunately, no, I don't. I think they need a really crazy visionary, and he doesn't strike me as a visionary at
No.
all. I think they need somebody who is they need an Andy Rubin and a Matthias.
Yeah.
Right.
Because those are the guys who I think are driving what is happening with Android. Those two, you know? And they need a guy who's just a crazy, wild.
Who's incapable of speaking on
I
message.
mean, they brought on the TAT guys, you know, and I don't know what they're doing or if they're even still there. But, you know, they had design chops. But, you know, I mean, I don't know if one of those guys would be the guy, but they need somebody who's going to really. I don't feel inspired. I mean, he's a really nice guy, but I don't feel inspired hearing him speak, and I don't believe the things that he says.
You know, did you ever see the video of Steve Jobs after he'd come back to Apple, and he was just did a Q&A at a developer conference?
Oh yeah, he's talking about killing. He's talking about retiring some
and
of
the developers are yelling at him. They're like, "Why would you kill OpenDoc?" And he's like, "Look, here's what we got to do. I know you're probably mad about it, but
Still pissed about it.
I have this big vision." And he just told them what he was going to do.
And he wasn't even
didn't-
CEO yet.
He wasn't CEO yet, and he couldn't give them product specifics, right? But it just felt like you watch. It's everybody should go see it.
Right.
You watch it, and you're like, that guy has a plan, and he's not telling us the whole plan because it's not completely formulated. He's been on this job for 3 days or whatever, but he knows what he wants to do. With Thorsten, it's you just keep making promises about a product that doesn't exist, and you're not even owning up to the failings of your existing product. You're insisting that it's a success in a segment that doesn't exist.
right.
And it's you're
not saying we got to kill 7 because frankly, we tried with 5, 6, and 7, and they're just not up to the task.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're gonna deliver something that is up to the task and even beyond the task.
You need a CEO where the phone comes up to him hey, here's what we built. Is are you kidding me?
Right.
yeah.
No, I think you need to have.
Well,
that.
he did.
And
To be fair, he did say the reason BlackBerry 10 is delayed is because it wasn't polished.
He
enough.
did. He actually. One of his quotes is actually he looked. There is something about him looking at it and going this isn't. It's not. I still see the
seams.
I still see the seams.
Okay.
You know. But
Well, good for him.
No,
Yeah.
that's great. But when I hear him speak about the company at large and their place in the market, you know, what I would say if I were the CEO of RIM is I'd say when somebody asked me, and I did ask him, I said, you lost a lot of market share, you know? And I wouldn't say, yeah, but our market share is still growing in lots of places, or we have a lot of market share in developing countries. I'd say, you know what, you're right. We took our eye off the ball, and we didn't do the things we needed to do, and we put out 3 versions of an OS that are lackluster, and it's time to change the story. You know, it's time to change the theme. And that is, to me, would fire me up. I'd be like, this guy understands completely what's going on. They screwed up for the last 3 or 4 years straight. Let's totally boned it. And now it's time to get serious. It's time to play.
Yeah.
And he doesn't. I don't hear that from him. I hear our BlackBerry 7 products are still good. Don't tell me that. You have 6 more months or whatever.
Right.
You know, 5 months, 6 months.
Yeah,
What is it going to
Osborne
be?
the hell out of the BlackBerry
You know
7.
what? Say if you've got
Well, you have the perfect audience to Osborne because they obviously don't want to upgrade anyways.
Well, they're leaving. They're leaving anyhow. But you have to say it the right way. You can't just be like, "Don't you buy our products." You need to say they're good products, but they're not great products. And the next thing we're going to make is going to be great.
Right.
You know?
GREAT, and then just throw the microphone.
I would say if somebody's like, should I keep
Angry cheerleaders? That's what you want them to be?
If it were me and you asked me, if I were the CEO and you said, should I go buy a BlackBerry 7 device? I'd say, don't buy a BlackBerry 7 device, but don't go buy an Android phone or an iOS device either, because what we're going to deliver, in the first quarter of 2013 is going to blow away everything else in the market.
You're going to want that.
You can't say that. You can't say that, but you can say what we're working on is really significant, and it's worth waiting for.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great.
All right. Okay, I'll go run RIM. It's fine.
Along those lines,
Hey.
I've been I had this thought a while ago, but your piece on carriers, which I only got to read half of it before the podcast, by the way. So
Yeah.
I still want to read the
I'll
rest
print
of
it
it.
out.
His printer ran out of the printer at the office ran out of ink.
But I had this thought. I guess I talked to Chris Ziegler a while about this. About carriers could just be so much better by just being honest. AT&T, for instance, has been trying to message to especially journalists, but to everybody, that their network is impeccable for so long.
Yeah.
You know? And if they just said, look, here's physics, right? Here's physics. Like in Times Square, you're going to get full signal bars because there's a tower right next to you, but the tower's full, you know? And that's a problem we're going to work on. If they just let you know, cars tell you the miles per gallon.
Yeah.
You know, they don't say, don't worry about it, it's the best. You know, they say,
That's amazing.
you know,
if the car was like how much longer can I drive? It's like, you're fine. It's good. This is one of the best fuel containers.
What do you think?
The
What do you
fuel
think this is,
container,
Honda?
the fuel container in the car is one of the best. It's got a huge capacity.
Right.
Don't worry about it. You're all set.
It's a 4G container.
4G, next generation.
I just think if they were honest or just honest about their business model, you know,
there's certain reasons they can't be honest. I mean, that's because probably because like a lot of people are really stupid and will take them the wrong way.
Yeah.
Like people will be like, "What?
Right.
What do you mean I can't get
Well,
service?" And
but
they'll
a lot
start
of times-
shooting
no.
at the tower.
No, but a lot of times people ask me about the problems with their phones, and I explain to them this is why this and this sucks.
Yeah.
You know, like you've been told that you bought something that was bulletproof and magical, but this is the reality of the situation. You know,
Right.
And like the reality of the situation is different at the different carriers, and it's, you know, some things are better, some things are worse.
I love the idea of the people of companies, major industries being honest with their customers. I mean, it goes against everything that everything in the world that we've set up in terms of how big companies interact with their customers.
Right.
I love the idea. What would happen if we were honest?
You know, think about the food industry though. Like it has like
Maybe the heavily regulated food industry that
heavily
has to put
government regulated.
that has to put proper labeling on all of its products.
but also it really got
Well, they would
ahead.
believe me.
So you know,
If they weren't regulated, by the way, I assure you, the food industry would sell you rotten beef. I have no doubt. No, I have zero doubt. If they knew there was like a level of tolerance, like the human body can eat like 20% rotten beef, like the human body can ingest. You might get a little upset stomach.
Right.
They would sell it to you.
Yeah.
But there's no question.
You know,
they would love to do
There are
that.
the regulated nutritional facts on the back, but there's also like an increasing like push to put some hot marketing nutritional facts on the front.
Yeah, because the government is telling them to do it.
No. That's marketing. The
No,
big
it's-
little
they're-
bold-faced stuff on the front is marketing.
But
The stuff-
what do you mean? Oh, you mean like no gluten or whatever?
no
Oh,
gluten.
yeah. I mean that is.
Or
But
20
they're-
grams of
But that's
protein.
because they're responding to a
a
society.
market,
Well,
a
they're
market
responding
that
to.
starting to know what's good and bad.
That's right.
for
I mean,
it.
they're responding to a society that's starting to put pressure on their government to
Right.
tell them to.
so
they're
can,
going
can I
like.
make the bigger point here?
Yes.
That's great. So you have, I mean, I love that we're talking about like granola bars on the Vergecast.
I could go for a granola bar, Michael. Just
wash
kidding.
out the
No.
smoothie.
to wash
like
down
a
smoothie.
like a very berry.
A very like a berry explosion granola.
No, look. So
No dairy.
just at the
no
most
sugar.
No
basic level, if we're like, there's the two sides of the box, right? There's the government side of the box.
So there's actually way more than two sides.
Well,
It's a box.
there's 6 sides of the box, but there's
Right.
the 2 that we're talking about. There's the government
And then
side of the
there's
box,
two flaps,
right? Where there's the label that the government mandates,
Yeah.
and then there's the marketing side of the box, and they're both like you can. The thing about it is the government side moves slowly.
Oh,
the
you mean
government,
the
like,
food box?
yeah,
The food box.
Yeah.
they're granola bars. The government moves slowly and passes these rules and changes.
Yeah.
But the market moves really fast, right? So that the companies are able to respond.
It seems
they're
to-
like
it
people
seems-
want gluten-free granola bars.
it
Or,
seems
can you
to
make
have-
a gluten-free
Dude,
granola
think you
bar?
probably
Michael,
can.
Can you get my tote bag?
I
think-
Paul brought granola bars
I
for
brought
everyone.
no, I'm like comparison shopping protein bars right now. I'm really into this protein
Oh,
bar. And
the
I've had
things you'll come up with when you don't have the internet.
I've had a bunch of different
Hey,
ones.
hey,
No,
here's what I'm doing.
but-
Comparison shopping
they all have-
protein
Time out.
bars.
Let me
Right,
just
right,
make
right.
let me just
Okay,
make
go
this
ahead,
point.
go ahead.
So the thing is that those companies can move fast. They can
Right.
say people want gluten-free food.
Right.
So let's put out a line of it. We'll change.
You
the
know why?
marketing. We'll
Because you
enhance
don't need
it.
a special kind of mouth to eat the food.
Yeah, right.
Any mouth can eat the food.
You just put it in the store,
right.
right?
That's right. Any
All of
store
these
can
other
sell it.
products, all the BlackBerry has to go through the carriers. The
Yeah.
carriers have no real competition.
Imagine if there were another.
Look at this.
Hold on a second.
0 grams of sugar, 20 grams of protein.
Those are cookies.
gluten-free, high protein bar. Those are all marketing
Yeah, but these. But you have to understand these are also.
But
these,
so some of those are regulated.
yes, but also. Well, no,
Like
a lot of them.
fat-free is
A
like
lot of them are.
regulated.
A lot of them are. Well,
no, I don't think they're allowed to lie about any of these.
no, they
Right.
can't lie about what's in the thing.
They could say 0% trans fat
No, but
and trick
but
you.
organic is not a regulated term.
No, organic isn't.
But then they have the real government required fat.
Well, there are some. There are some.
We're way off.
Hold on,
off.
but no, but actually, but we're not way off because I mean, it is like imagine if this same situation existed, but there was another I'm trying to think of who this would be in the food chain. Every pun intended. that there's another organization
Mm-hmm.
that basically like is not the government
Right.
and is not the manufacturer of food.
Right.
That stands,
Everyone is screaming that organic is regulated.
Is it?
Apparently.
I thought it
Your
wasn't.
wife has just told me in all capital letters.
Yeah. Organic is regulated. All natural is bullshit.
All natural is not organic is.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
God, why have I been buying all this all natural food? It's like not organic, but
is
it's all
insane.
natural.
When I worked in the potato industry.
Hold on a second. So imagine there was another entity that.
By the way, Paul really did work in the potato
No, this is
industry.
true. This is a true thing. He saw the man's seen with his own eyes millions of potatoes.
True.
In a single glance.
Yeah.
But imagine if there was another organization that stood in between the person who made the food and was aside from the government regulations, in between the person who made the food and the buyer of the food, the eater of the food. And they were like, we're going to tell you how to tweak this particular food and what kind of packaging to put it in and whether or not you can sell it in different stores. Those are the carriers.
Right.
Yeah.
And, they don't have to.
But the thing
they
about-
basically don't have to do. They could like add some gluten into your gluten-free stuff,
Right, but the
and
thing
nobody
about
can
the
stop them.
carriers, even on that level, is that there's rampant competition in the food, right? So, like, there are many kinds of protein bars for Paul the comparison shop. There's only 4 carriers, and Verizon and AT&T do insane things. Like, AT&T says, the CEO of AT&T said, I think last week, we're signaling to the market and to Verizon that we're raising our prices by raising some bundled prices, and so their prices always match because they know that there's nowhere else for somewhere to go. So if there was a world that existed in which one carrier was being honest with customers and people would flock to that carrier, then AT&T would be honest with customers. But that world doesn't exist.
Because honesty is infectious.
Well,
Honesty
market
is like
demand is
honesty
infectious.
is like a disease that you catch and you cannot get rid of.
That's so not true.
No. That's
Okay,
the
but
opposite.
hold on a second.
All right.
But honesty is the best
Can we talk
policy.
about? Are we going to talk about DirecTV?
We can
Because
talk
I feel
about
like
that.
this segues into it.
We can.
I think there are places that I see in our technology world, which I think is increasingly the world, where there is steam. There is like there are a lot of steam people. Like there's things brewing that
You
I
should
think
say what you mean by DirecTV, by the way.
DirecTV. Viacom raised its licensing fees.
Yep.
Correct me if I'm wrong on any of this. Viacom raised its licensing fees for DirecTV or for everybody.
They renegotiating with DirecTV.
Renegotiating their contract with DirecTV, and they wanted to raise their licensing fees. DirecTV said this is too much money, and Viacom said, "Well, we're going to pull our channels from your service."
Yep.
And then they didn't come to agreement. They pulled their channels, and now there are 24 channels, I think.
Yeah, it's MTV, Comedy Central.
Oh, all the
each one.
24? I heard
20
about
it's 26.
I heard
20
about the big 3.
We keep on saying MTV, Comedy Central, and
Comedy
24 more.
Central, MTV, and a bunch of other things.
That's crazy.
So, and actually, they have a really interesting video. The CEO of DirecTV has this video where he's like, they wanted to raise license fee. It'll cost us $1 billion,
Right.
and we think that's too high. And we asked them if they would at least allow customers, even if we don't license, if we could license, so do a license so that customers could request the channels they want to watch and pay whatever your fee is for them. And they said no, which I think is a really interesting thing for him to have said. Maybe he's just grandstanding.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think it's like it speaks to, and this is my point. And then we can talk about DirecTV a little bit. What I want to say is, I see places where there is like there are forces brewing. There's anger brewing that is going to be, if these people don't like see it soon, like their businesses are going to get screwed anyhow.
There's a pot about to boil over.
Yes, there's a pot that's about to boil over, and those pots, there's a couple of them right now. The first pot is the cable industry. Like, I just don't think people are going to.
It's a stove with a lot of burners.
I think that one's going to take a little bit longer, but I think I see like this Aereo decision that just happened. If you guys don't know, Aereo is this business that lets you basically stream broadcast HD to a device by saying like, we have an antenna in a warehouse somewhere that's picking up the broadcast signal, and you're paying us for the service of shooting.
And they
it,
really do have the
shooting, and they
antenna.
actually do have the physical antenna.
Yeah.
So you can watch like your local broadcast stations on your, there's a way to do it on your computer, but they have it on devices like iPad, iPhone, whatever. And they just won this kind of I mean, I don't know, it's a landmark case, but it's kind of a big deal. It's not a, but it's a big deal that basically they're
allowed to continue.
They're allowed to continue their business.
Yeah.
So anyhow, in cable, I see something brewing that is like maybe a little bit longer, but it's going to be a major deal. I think that
Just to clarify, the case itself will be a landmark case when it is decided.
It hasn't
it
been
just
decided.
it hasn't gotten
not
there
yet.
yet. It hasn't gotten there
They
yet.
got
They didn't. The broadcasters didn't win an injunction.
But yeah, they didn't win an injunction, which is I think is somewhat. I mean, there's some sign there that there's some part of this that looks on the up and up to some.
Yeah, I mean, it always should have been on the up.
Right.
There's no,
So that's the one. The cell phone, the mobile carrier business is the other, and then I think the other big one is and they're all connected. Is our patent.
And
the way our patent system works in regards to technology.
And I think this is a better way of what I was saying the other day, just that like I think some of this competition with Wi-Fi based and like more open services like iMessage and FaceTime and stuff like that are part of fuel for the fire. They're not necessarily going to solve the problem.
You say iMessage?
Yeah.
How's iMessage open?
I'm saying these services,
device, or
these
network independent,
services that they're showing that the emperor has no clothes, and I think that's the bigger thing than coming up with one specific fix for everything is just to make people aware of how things are working.
Well, I think they're becoming aware of how they're working. Excuse me, I got them berry. But they're also starting to figure out ways. Sorry, I need to wash this down.
I knew that was coming. I was just waiting for it, actually.
Oh, God, that's terrible. But they're also starting to look at the way they do these things, and they see like there are now alternatives, and those alternatives are only growing in number. They're not shrinking, And I do think that like a future of like local mesh networks of neighborhoods that are independent of like the overall structure, is like pretty realistic. I don't think that's a crazy idea, and I think that when people start to figure out when the things that are complex become less complex, and we start to figure out ways to build some of these things on smaller scales for like communities or neighborhoods, suddenly like the hand of Verizon looks really different, and like I think they need to wake up to the possibility that they are not always going to be in the position that they're in.
If all of a sudden your
adapt.
kids are like making a lot of their phone calls and most of their messaging on an iPod Touch, look out.
And that's definitely happening. And
Look out,
also,
because then Comcast will be rich.
Right.
well, no, but this is where it's all.
Wait, hold on, time out.
But this all goes back to
Utopia. Utopia.
This all goes back to net neutrality. Ultimately, like there are a lot of questions here that we need to say. Like,
there's a lot of questions, but you're just transferring the power from wireless providers to wireline providers, right? You're saying let's all put up mesh networks that connect to our FiOS. So it's still Verizon.
You could do local area.
Well, you got to connect to the internet at some point.
But you could do I mean, maybe on certain nodes, but not for the entire thing.
That internet connection is the.
Well, no, I get that.
The high value.
Well, but it's not going to happen overnight. But I'm saying that like. You can get to a point.
I mean, what you're describing is like everyone in a neighborhood like sets up like a LAN party.
Yeah, but now
it's like screw you, internet.
But we think of that way now. But there may be. But what I'm saying is like people are becoming. They're becoming more independent from. Well, they're more dependent on right now. But there is more possibility for independence from the things that like a phone, for instance, is a great example. We've always used like you had to call up AT&T or Verizon, or whoever, and get your phone service, right?
No, that's actually not true. There was a whole period in the 80s and 90s. When long-distance phone service was deeply, deeply competitive.
No, I understand that.
On the transport level and on the device level, right? Because you could buy any kind of cordless phone.
But the lines were...
The lines were owned, but they were leased out to many other companies.
And it was like there was a similar like very large carriers and then some smaller. There was some really heated competition. I remember
there was heated competition, but think about what happened there. I mean, like
the internet happened. People started using VoIP.
No. In that market, for that time period when that market was important, AT&T for a generation charged you by the minute for long distance phone service. And then Sprint came in and charged you 10 cents a minute. This was like a big deal.
With the pin that drops.
Yeah, with the pin that drops, and they had digital voice, and they ran a different kind of service.
That's a different ad. That's for their cell phone campaign.
No, that was the Sprint pin drop ad. Was for their landline quality. Yep. And they came in at 10 cents a minute, and then later long distance just became free because there were so many other competitors in that market that people were switching to lower cost
And now nobody
carriers.
buys phone service.
Well, that's a different disruption. I'm saying there was so much competition in that market.
But what I'm saying is that now, like, I can make a call over Skype as easily as I can make it easier than I can make a call.
But you're just focus on what I'm saying. There was the phone system that was owned by AT&T.
Yeah.
And both ends of that system were locked into stagnation. So the phones that you used were those old Princess phones.
Right.
And AT&T said you can't connect other phones to our network. We will control all of the phones. So that innovation stalled. Then on the pricing side, on the service side, nobody else was allowed to compete. So AT&T had their rates in
You're
place
talking about
forever.
like way back in the day.
Wait, but the parallel is right in front of you.
Right.
The FCC said AT&T, this famous rule, the Carter phone rule, AT&T, you have to let other people plug into your phone system. You have to have other kinds of phones. Anything that works on the system can plug in.
Right.
Massive
Suddenly
explosion
you
in
can buy
phone
those
technology.
see-through phones that light up when they ring.
Yeah, but think about the huge variety of phones, and then this explosion of like cordless phones. Right, there was a whole arms race of technology in cordless phones,
Right.
and answering machines, and weird stuff. that
Panasonic
plugged
made a
into
great
it.
cordless phone.
And on top of it, modems. Right, the internet was created because the FCC said to
There's
AT&T.
such the lineage of technology.
So where are we going with?
We're way in the weeds, but his point.
No,
is,
but I'm saying
his
is
point
like-
is his point is in the way that we need carriers to be told. You have to stop locking these devices to your networks and let people have choice. I think that's your point, right?
No, but and then on the other side, there was a huge competition in service providing.
Right.
Right, in service providing.
Service providing.
Providing.
Services.
That makes sense.
Providing.
Where there was price competition from upstarts like Sprint.
Yeah.
And MCI and all those other companies.
MCI that are now out of business. That were bought by AT&T.
Right.
What does that have to do with
I
how
think what he's-
Comcast is going to ruin our lives?
I think.
But
what
so
he's-
you can't transfer the power from one dominant set of entrenched interests to another one. So you can't say we're all going to go away from
But we did that.
AT&T and
We've
Verizon.
done that.
Well, we're doing it. What you're suggesting is we'll build a neighborhood network.
But right now,
I'm
but right
suggesting
now,
But then whoever
total
controls it-
anarchy.
yeah.
but right now, Comcast land is more exciting because it's a little less regulated and it's a little cheaper. And if we start to go that way, then I feel like the wireless networks will have to keep up because they've got a lot of bandwidth. In
I
that
think
4G stuff.
what Paul's point was with the iPod touches and people iMessaging on iPod touches and making calls in them is that the avenues in which we do these things are expanding, right? Like a phone call isn't the same thing as a phone call was 5 years ago, certainly not 10 years ago. And that's happening all over the place. iMessage is a great example of SMS without SMS services. You know, like you're not paying the 25 cents because it's being done a different way. But to Nilay's point, and I think this is the ultimate point he's making, is that those lines are still controlled by somebody.
Sure.
The
Yeah.
Wi-Fi is still controlled by somebody.
Sure, but
like
they're
this same
not
but this
as
same problem
controlled.
But I think the same problem has
That's just a matter of
Okay,
Comcast flipping the switch.
Right.
But
I
they
mean-
haven't flipped the switch.
But
AT&T
they can.
and Verizon
But at
have
this
flipped
point-
the switch,
but
and that switch has been on for a long time.
At this point, they can flip the switch, and that's the problem, right? I mean, when you get right down to it, you need. I mean, this is a net neutrality argument. But my only point was that there are these like storms brewing in specific areas, and I think that they're all really related, and I think that they're all like the pot is like coming to a boil.
These
on
are
a lot
I
of them.
agree
what
with
they
that.
are. They're structural problems, right? It's how do we organize the system,
Right.
And how do we make it so the system is constantly delivering innovation and value
not how do we
customers?
Better yet, it's like not how do we organize. Well, it is like on a grand scale. How do we
It
organize
is.
the system? But it's also like how do we make a system that is adaptable,
Right.
That makes sense. It's like this system doesn't make sense.
And it's not solving the problems we want.
Like
to
the
solve.
system we have, like it's like I'm supporting with my cable bill. I'm supporting a business that was created, 30 years ago or something, and I'm serving like the interests of a small group of people, and I think a lot of people feel that way, and I think that there are other ways to do it, and like as they have to adapt and we have to adapt, and
So,
like I just don't see a lot of adapting going
I'd love
on
to
from
hear you
those.
guys' thoughts on this because I haven't been a part of the larger internet conversation, but I read in my newspaper 2 quotes that were very different. One was Viacom saying, because of the internet, we only have a larger subscriber or like a larger viewership, and it's not cannibalizing like cable viewers.
Mm-hmm.
And DirecTV was saying the internet stuff directly cannibalizes. So DirecTV was basically saying, look, like Viacom is less valuable of a product because they put so many of their shows on the internet. And Viacom was saying, look, don't worry about it. Like the internet isn't cannibalizing, and it's a growing viewership. And those are like clearly two very different perspectives.
Didn't Viacom also pull their streaming shows?
We have
a report that they pulled.
Yeah, because
their
DirecTV was
full-
pointing people at.
They
Viacom's
pulled their
streaming page.
full.
Well, if you
streaming
look at it
episodes,
from
which
Viacom's
is, by the way,
perspective,
great for the customer.
yeah. Well, if you look at it from Viacom's perspective, it's they have to figure out how to get people to watch their stuff, and if they can monetize it if they can monetize it all equally regardless of distribution, they're happy because then they win.
Yeah, this reminds me of
From DirecTV's perspective, they have to make their profit per viewer or per subscriber as high as possible. So, and when Viacom wants to increase its rate, their profit that eats into that profit margin per viewer.
So I see how this is really
So
bad.
they're doing math way differently.
I know this is bad for DirecTV, but if Viacom was really embracing online viewership, which you're saying like they're like screwing people over now, but if they were, like they finally realized, look, like we can make money both ways, and we could really embrace, because I feel for a while.
Well, that's it. That would be
for instance, HBO will not divorce itself from these cable companies yet, because these cable companies, it's so valuable to pay them whatever they want. Like DirecTV, obviously, you know, for $1 billion we can do without Viacom. We're not going to pay them this ridiculous amount. I feel like HBO could name whatever they want.
Well, so I think HBO is saying to us right now, they're saying we need the cable industries, blah, blah, blah. I think they're probably furiously working on building a business to sell direct to the customer. They can't be that stupid. Like a company that produces
they don't have to flip that switch until they've finally found the limit of what these cable companies will pay them to be part of this exorbitant package.
Which seems indefinite.
Like the
an
HBO
indefinite
package,
goal.
which is $200 instead of the regular subscriber package, which is $40.
Right, which is like at this point they don't know how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Right.
Like they're like, how far can we push it? But they're going to find out really soon. Right. But the thing is, like when I think about this, and I think about like, well, what would the model be? You know, because you think about like how much does it cost to make Teen Mom or whatever? And it's not that expensive, but MTV puts it on the air because Viacom thinks it's a good show.
Yesterday, Becky had me watch a show. I think that was just called DUI.
Just people who were drunk driving. It's like not even cops level.
I was like, why are we watching this? And she's like, I don't know. It's just on.
Yeah,
and
this is
exactly, and that is the thing. And like they actually count, like they're like, yeah, people who just flip around and land on a show, and like then we sell advertising against it. But and I'm not going to even get into the debate of like whether those are quality or not. But like there is this feeling of like when we have a writer on staff, Josh Kopstein, who we've had some.
I had a massive patent debate with him.
We've had a lot of conversations. Like he's very anti-establishment everything, which is great.
I love him deeply.
Yeah, he's fantastic. But we always get into these conversations with him where it's like, and I feel like hearing this and thinking about what I like in my head, all I can think is the problem is so big.
Yeah,
and is messed up on so many levels that it's true that the only way to ever solve it is nuclear war that wipes out most of the population of the planet. Like my mind goes to like, well, we have to change this, and then that would have to change, and we need to do, and it's like, let's just blow up the planet because there's no way to like maybe if we had
just blow up the planet.
if like we had like a farming like society, like that the things would be fixed. Like you think about all of the.
You should write an editorial for The Verge. Let's just blow up the planet.
Blow up the planet because we're never going to fix this cable billing problem. We're never going to get all the channels we want for a good price.
This is another scenario, not ceremony.
What
scenario where people come to me
it's a
and
ceremony
it's like,
where we blow up the planet.
They're like, look, I only watch 2 shows.
Yeah.
Why can't I just pay for those 2
right?
shows?
Then you couldn't have those 2 shows.
And then I explained to them like why, and they're like, oh, that makes sense. That sucks.
Right. That's what I'm talking about. It's like a trap. You're like, how do I get out of this trap? And there is a way to get out. We have to have
nuclear war.
We have to. Well, it is the kind of thinking. We have to have the kind of think. We have to. I don't know if we can get as a society into the kind of thinking that will allow it to happen.
Look, you can't solve your problems with the same sort of thinking.
We may have to live.
Those
we may have to
problems.
live in a society where
We only barter.
where something that's made of corn syrup, 100% corn syrup, maybe isn't a product that we should be eating, like Teen Mom and the Kardashians. Like you have to get to a point where like
she's 100% corn syrup.
There's probably like I don't know 90% of shows on television that could be like wiped out, and because they offer nothing but straight up entertainment,
And
which
they
is
also
like
fund the
in a
awesome
society
shows that we love.
in a society where like what you need is like Teen Mom marathons. like, does that sound like a functioning society to you, where like you make great things and like you like move the world forward, or does it sound like a society that does the opposite? I mean, because that's what and that's why I think like nuclear conflagration. Because like, where do you get? Because you have to get to the point where you go like, we should be out doing things and like learning and not watching Teen Mom, and then like we wouldn't need 500 channels that show Teen Mom marathons.
Well, this is why we need to settle.
Well, I mean, it's just funny because you definitely.
I'm making Kopstein's argument.
We need to go to.
You're making Kopstein's argument. You also sound like a modern day digital Karl Marx. Like that was his argument.
No, well, but I do think like there are like positive contributions, and there are like contributions that are meant to like distract you.
But we need to go to Mars because we just don't have anything.
Well,
to do.
we're not going to go to Mars.
Stop.
We don't have a frontier.
We're not going to go to Mars.
Letting this go into an argument about whether we should go to Mars.
We're not going to go to Mars because we're busy getting fat watching Teen Mom.
Okay, done. And I think that we should now talk about the Atrix HD.
We actually have to. We got to wrap up pretty soon. We have kind of a hard stop.
What
today.
about the Nexus 7?
We should. What are the? Well,
here's what we have left in this hour-long podcast. In the next minute, we have to talk about the Amazon smartphone, Microsoft calling it PC Plus and saying Apple has post-PC wrong. We have the Atrix HD, which actually ties right into that because
please don't make me talk about the Atrix HD.
Well, no, it's not. Nobody cares about the phone.
Bootloaders.
Nobody cares about the phone. Motorola is getting rid of all the laptop stuff, webtop, all gone with the Atrix HD. I
can't understand why.
There's the Ouya that happened.
Ouya.
Ouya? What's Ouya?
You don't know Ouya? Oh my God, you love Ouya. You know
what is it? It's a $99 Android.
Let's do this.
console.
Why don't we take a topic? Let's do this. We're going to take a topic, and each one of us will make a statement on that topic.
And then we go.
And then we'll go to the next. We'll go to the next topic.
All right. Amazon smartphone.
Go.
I think that Amazon has a real opportunity to do something interesting with the smartphone if they actually do something interesting with the services around the smartphone. And I'm talking something like them as an MVNO. Or something along those lines,
or
tapping into Wi-Fi calling and Wi-Fi based services heavily, where it's like you don't. Yeah,
go.
Okay, that's my statement.
Go.
Oh, Amazon smartphone. I think you're right. I think they're going to be completely. They're going to be blocked by the carriers. The carrier is the biggest obstacle to whatever Amazon's doing with this phone. I don't think Verizon's going to jump into it.
I think this is the best idea ever. What Josh said.
Okay. All right.
Cool.
PC Plus versus post PC. Microsoft is saying it's not a post PC world, it's PC Plus. Which, by the way, Bill Gates has been saying since 1999.
Can I say my piece?
Go ahead. I'm setting
this
it.
is all of this post PC and PC Plus is all BS corporate marketing talk. Doesn't mean anything. It is a world where things exist, and they're either good things or bad things. And Microsoft will either make good products or bad products, and we'll either find ways to use them or not use them, and they should hope that they're making the right products for the world that exists now. And the name of that world is like 100% meaningless.
I disagree. I think Microsoft is terrified that the world is moving beyond the PC as a primary center of.
No, but what you call it, they're obviously showing. Sorry,
that's fine. I'm just saying. I think structurally. Structurally, it's really important for them to be saying.
We can do another half hour,
yeah,
right?
we can. I mean, there's a lot to unpack here. Structurally, they're saying you have to expand the PC, and Apple is saying we're done with the PC.
We made it one thing. Now we're like debating. No, but they're not saying. They're saying that like they want to like. Well, here's our statement. But
they're saying here's our plan.
But they're doing. They are doing.
I can't tell you which one's right or wrong.
Well, they're just not at. They're just not at like the full tablet experience because they're like scared. For this generation, but next generation, I'm sure that like there will be no desktop.
Right. Well, we don't know.
That takes you. I would argue post PC.
We don't know, but I don't want PC to be an iPad. I can tell you that.
So I mean I agree. The marketing message doesn't mean anything, but it's very important how they think of it. And if they do think of it as PC Plus, they're really confused because they're making a kind of a tablet operating system for ARM and kind of a desktop operating system for Intel. So they're not doing what they're saying they're doing, and that means it's a company that doesn't really know what it's doing.
I agree that if their philosophy is to continue doing like the tablet as a side thing to like whatever the PC, the real PC is, it's completely wrong-headed. But I also think that they've shown signs to me that what they're doing is they're embracing very much a new type of computing that is like 100% like is like this other thing, this hybrid of like a tablet and PC, which is ultimately what it needs to be.
I agree it should be a hybrid, but I don't know if they really know how to do that because their best consumer effort ever is the Xbox, and that really has never integrated well with Windows.
I mean, just show me a single person in the technology industry who will get rid of their laptop and only use an iPad.
The technology industry is this guy, but that's not right. It's not accurate.
You're in a special place.
If you look at, but
we're not there yet.
If you look at any other industry, if you look at,
let's move to the next topic. We're
but I'm saying, but if you look at lawyers or moms or whatever, a lot of those people are moving to iPads.
There is a segment, and I think that they're going to try to embrace that segment. I don't think they're ignorant of it, but I agree that it's questionable what their philosophy is. All right, let's do rapid. Let's actually try rapid fire for the next ones.
Ouya.
Well, he doesn't know what it is. Should we explain it?
Let me talk about it.
$99 Android game console with free games with DLC.
I was going to make things up.
Go ahead.
Ouya is. I don't think that I have a full grasp of the understanding of how they will get great games on it, and how I will get those great games. I mean, I get how I'll get them.
I mean, they're going to run smartphone games.
No, I understand that, and that's a problem.
Is it handheld?
It's a console that is Android based.
They'll run Android games.
It runs Android.
Yeah.
Well, that's stupid.
Well, not entirely. I mean, there are some pretty complex.
I thought it was going to just like stream stuff.
No, it's not
it's
like
just
an
going to run like smartphone games. That's the dumbest thing ever.
Well, no, they're going to be custom. They're going to be tailored.
No,
to
that's
console.
even worse.
I don't think that's no. I think okay.
Look how hard it is to get good games on the PS3 and the Xbox, and they have billions of people that own them.
At any rate, I'm all in support of something that is like a grassroots open source. Like, let's try something different for the living room. Because I think it's also a media player. It's a set-top box. It does all that.
If it's
stuff.
grassroots open source, it means you've got the millionth thing that can emulate SNES now.
No, so we're doing a bad job of explaining this.
I bought one just to let you know.
Yeah, so it's like this huge Kickstarter success, hit $1 million in like 8 hours. And I think it's going to be an enormous success because it is going to take that promise of indie games on Xbox and actually bring it to people. Because people can code Android games, they can give them to an audience of people who have the console and a controller that is designed to be this distribution platform. And the big games will all be free to play with like downloadable content. So
$99.
people will be able to get it and play like 100 levels of 100 different games for free, which is very compelling.
I just think that it's hard to, without a huge marketing budget, to push into that world.
Yeah.
They need to like have an incredible. I mean, grassroots. I mean, if they could get 1 million people playing it, that's significant. How many did they sell?
They have $1 million in Kickstarter.
Anytime you require a game developer,
over that now.
Anytime you require a game developer to do anything specific and unique for a console with like less than like 10 million people install base.
Well, but they're already building Shadow.
I don't think you're going to get the AAA titles. I think you're going to get Angry Birds.
They built
indie games. You just don't get good games if they don't have a huge install
But you
base.
built Shadowgun for Android. All you have to do is make it compatible with the controller.
Right. I mean, like,
I don't think it's that big of a deal.
I think the Android piece of this is going to be huge.
All right, next topic.
Steam box.
This is the last one. I think you're going to like this. Digg sold the Betaworks for $500,000.
Poor Jordan.
At one point, it was worth like $200 million.
I can only say that I wish I had known Digg was available for such a low price. I would have found some people to buy it, and I would have bought it.
And turn it into your personal homepage.
And turn it into my homepage, joshuatopolsky.com.
It just redirects.
Just redirects. To get enormous traffic to my Tumblr.
Redirects to like joshuatopolsky.com/dig, and it's like, welcome, Digg users.
Digg still does like large traffic. That's the thing that's weird.
But it says like 7 million a month or something.
Well, 7 million, you could just start yanking in.
Yeah.
All I know is if I had known,
I just remember what
Digg that on the screen.
Digg would like drive mad traffic to Engadget.
We used to.
Oh yeah, we had Digg badges.
We used to put Digg badges on stuff.
Dig it up.
Those were the days.
Yeah.
So happy they're over. So happy. All right, I don't have anything to say except that I wish I had purchased it.
Yeah. That's it.
It'd be awesome. It'd be awesome to own it personally.
But now I can't think of what it is.
Was it about your 1970s shirt that you have today?
No, it wasn't about that.
Paul's really. You can't look at this, but something amazing is on the screen.
Wow. Wow, that's awful. Okay, we're done.
That's it. That's the Vergecast for the week. If you want to get in touch with us, you can email us at vergecast@theverge.com. You can leave a comment in the post, which we always love. You can also find us on Twitter. The Verge is @Verge. I'm Joshua Topolsky. Nilay is Reckless. Paul is Future Paul.
And P.O. Box 501, New York, New York, 10276 is the zip code.
1076.
Yeah. No, 10276.
Oh, 10276.
Yeah.
PO Box
501.
501.
Yeah.
How did you get a 3-digit PO box?
Oh, they have those.
Are they just
Right.
like nobody wants one
I think
anymore?
it's really based on that very specific zip code.
And that's the show. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back next week, of course. And as always, I wish your family all the best this holiday weekend.
Is it a holiday weekend?
No, it's not.
Oh.
rock and roll.
Yes.
Paul.
Paul.
Paul.